Okay, today I'm making an experimental pizza. It's experimental in the sense that I've never tried a method like this before, so it's a bunch of new things. We'll see if it works, I have no idea. I've seen online people posting a method for reheating old pizza that you've gotten from a pizza shop the next day or something. If you take a pan and reheat your pizza on the stove, you can actually get a crispy underside of the pizza again, and the cheese will melt, and it's really good. So I'm wondering if we can actually start from scratch and cook a pizza that way. So to do this, obviously we'll need pizza ingredients. So the first thing we're going to do is make a very simple pizza sauce that doesn't even require cooking. Open a can of tomato paste. So I'm going to talk about the amounts that I'm putting in just so that I have a record of what I did. So this is a 6-ounce can of tomato paste. We're going to use the whole thing. Some water here. That's 6 ounces of hot water. I'm going to pour it into the can just to get as much of that tomato paste out as I can. Just kind of stir it around. Actually, a ½ tablespoon of mixed Italian spices. It's going to go in there. Just squeeze some honey into there, about 2 tablespoons. That's good. About a teaspoon of garlic powder. And a teaspoon of onion powder. The recipe calls for anchovy paste, but I don't have any of that, so I'm going to use about a quarter of a teaspoon there of fish sauce. So to this I'm going to add, for a little bit of a kick, I'm going to add quarter teaspoon, or an eighth of a teaspoon, let's just go conservative on this, of red pepper flakes and cayenne pepper, just a little bit to give it a kick. That's about a tablespoon. I'm going to add 2 to 3 tablespoons of Parmesan, because that's what I have. Okay. So a couple of pinches of salt. Incorporate that. Okay, now what we're going to do is form the dough. And what we're starting with is some artisan bread dough that I made in a method that allows you to keep it in the fridge for up to 2 weeks, so it's always ready when you need to cook. Sprinkle some flour on the top to dry it out just enough so that we can grab. Spread it out so you can see what I'm doing here. Okay, now it's not as sticky, so I can kind of grab it. I want to grab about an orange, the size of an orange. This is a very wet dough, and let it rip, and then plop that down. That's enough. That's more than enough for pizza crust. Okay. And now our surface is floured, our dough is floured. We're just going to kind of, we could roll it out. I'm going to hand stretch it. Okay, that's pretty hot. And what I'm going to do is pop this dough on there, cover it, and hope that the dough cooks on the pan. Okay. Okay, it's been about a minute. Let's see what we got on the bottom here. It's still gooey on the sides. It's sticking. It's definitely cooked in some places, so I'm a little bit worried that this pan isn't evenly bit burnt in the middle. Okay, that didn't work. Okay, this is try number 2 with another dough, and the first one burnt because the heat was too high in some places. Basically, the heat was uneven. So we're going to try a second attempt here, and I'm also going to try it a little bit closer to the camera. I'm also going to use some oil in the pan to get the pan's heat to even out, and that oil I'm going to use is olive oil. So let's put some olive oil in the pan first. I know it looks like a lot of olive oil, but we need it to spread all over the pan. Even the handle's hot, so I think that the temperature's probably evened out, and I only have it at 320 on this pan, so. Okay, bottom of the pan is coated. Well, alright, now I'm going to plop the dough into it. That worked pretty well. Okay, now we're going to cover it. See what happens. Let's see. Oh yeah. Okay, so that was a good temperature because it seems to be cooking fairly evenly. I guess it's kind of frying. I'm going to turn it and let it cook a little more. Alright, so even the top, well, top is still raw dough. And it's starting to burn a little bit on the other side, so I need to flip it. Okay, so you can see that the heating that I'm getting from this pan is a little bit uneven, so I'm going to turn the pan. So one thing we're learning from here is that cast iron might not be the best for this. At least it looks fairly cooked, I guess, in most places. You can see that it didn't cook evenly. So I'm going to put some sauce on here. Not much. I don't want too much. So we'll spread it thin. I actually don't think we're getting enough heat on top. I guess we'll find out though. It's possible that if I drop the temperature to 280, we'll get less burning and we'll get enough temperature on top to melt the cheese. But we need to cover it and just keep an eye on it. Alright, let's turn it a little bit. You can see that the cheese is not melting at all yet. But based on what we saw on the bottom of the other pizza, we know that it's going to get some hot spots. So let's just try to keep it moving a little bit. Yeah, that's not even getting warm. The top of this thing is not getting warm, which to me says that the heat is not accumulating up there because of the low temperature that we have at. But the low temperature has prevented it from burning, so I don't want to increase the temperature too much. So let's keep it at have it up at 360. Yeah, I can smell it. Yeah, getting hot there. Okay, there are burning spots. You can smell burning bread. So we need to take that off. Turn that off. Take this off the cooktop. And whether this is cooked in the middle or not, it's done because the bottom is burning. So let's see what we've got. Okay. Try to, as you can see, we achieved some melting, but it's not great. Now I need to cut it so we can see the bottom because flipping it is not working. So I'll get a pizza cutter and cut it. let's look at the bottom. Okay, we've got some burnt spots, which with some kinds of pizza is not a bad thing. I'm biting her. It's not good. If you can look, if you can see, if that's going to focus. It's kind of doughy. The interior, it's not completely cooked. And the cheese is melted on top, you can see. But the dough is fairly flavorless. Could use more salt. Probably should use a dough with olive oil. So, this is not a success. Not what I would call edible. It's certainly not something you would serve to people. So, that is the conclusion of the cooktop pizza experiment. At least by trying this, I know that I have to do something different next time. Let's see what we've learned. We learned that cast iron doesn't heat evenly, even on the induction cooktop, which means that with the hot spots and cold spots, the pizza is not going to cook evenly, meaning you're going to have some doughy places, and that's really not good for trying to cook any kind of bread on a surface. You need high heat delivered evenly so that you get even cooking and so you can move it off. You don't want to be having to turn this thing. The whole idea of cooking on the cooktop was supposed to be to make it easier. It didn't make it easier. That wasn't easy. So turning it is definitely not easy. Second thing is the dough that I used didn't really work for this, and that's partly because it was a very wet dough, which is by design. It's a dough that's intended to keep in the refrigerator for up to 2 weeks, and so it needs to be wet for it to survive that way. But the consequence of that was that I couldn't roll it flat reliably. I would get holes, it would fall apart. It really didn't have the integrity that it needed. So what I need to do is I need to make a traditional dough that is a little bit more, has a little bit more structure, and that is going to be able to withstand the rolling without holes forming. So I need more structure. Possibly we'll need to add gluten to the dough to get it to hold. This is starting to mean that it's out of the realm of kind of an easy recipe that I can tell people is a kind of replacement for having like a frozen pizza or something that they have lying around to rely on. So those are the things we learned. We might try something similar on a cooktop using a steel pan. That's something to try. That might provide more even heating. Otherwise, I really have to go back to the drawing board for this sort of pizza. And there it is.